1 year ago, from tomorrow, I made my first ever police report against my freshman roommate in college. The university and the campus police since then have been covering this up, so I feel this is finally my time to come forward. And I'm just gonna ask God to guide me through all of this. I went into college my freshman year choosing a random roommate in which I was going to be sharing a bedroom with. My first impression of her was she seemed very quiet, but I felt like we had things in common. For example, like she liked to dance and she was Christian. Besides that, everything else that I went through, I would have never in a million years expected to go through that. And I do not wish that on anybody. The university has since then covered this entire situation up and never once did anything about it, nor did the police. This started off, I started school on August 16th, 1 year ago, and this was my first ever experience in college. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. So obviously, your first friend is supposed to be your roommate. That's who you share a space with, and that's supposed to be your comfort zone. That's supposed to be your new home. That's what's supposed to feel secure to you. I have never wanted to leave somewhere so much in my life and never felt so uncomfortable and just not safe that I spent every single day that I had free time that I was supposed to be in my room in the basement of our building. Starting off the first week of school, the only time that me and my roommate ever held a conversation was the night that we moved in when my mom was present in the room. Every time after that, her boyfriend was in the room 24/7. I never got privacy to begin with, so obviously this was my first issue. So I knew that I was able to go to my RA about that, but I mean when I would literally walk out of the bathroom in my robe, like her boyfriend was in the room, there was no common courtesy, no common decency to just give me my privacy and leave, and he just sat there the entire time. So things were already awkward to begin with. Not to mention that they both knew who I was from social media, so it made it even more awkward that somebody was sitting there watching how I lived my everyday life. But I had nowhere else to go because I didn't know anybody and I didn't have any friends. So I would literally take my butt and venture out of my room around a university that I had no clue where I was going just because I felt so unsafe in my room the first few days with my roommate and her boyfriend. And I feel as though she purposely made it awkward for me because I was so welcoming. I let her know when I was leaving. I let her know hey, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'll be back later, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, okay. Like there was nothing. There was no conversation and I tried. So at this point, I'm like, bro, this girl she just doesn't like me. What's the motive? Nothing. Every time after that I left my room and she knew I was leaving, we basically kind of had each other's schedules. Like we knew when we weren't going to be in our rooms. Every time I would leave my room and I would come back, my stuff was off the walls. I had a big LED light that said Aaliyah, and I never turned it on because I knew it was so bright. And I don't know if she just didn't like my name being up on the wall when you walk in the room, but she ripped it down every time I left my room. But at this time, I'm just thinking that my command strips just aren't sticking to the walls. Like I'm just thinking my stuff is just falling off the walls. So every time I come back in my room and she's literally sitting there watching me, watching my reaction, I put my stuff back up on my walls and I carry on with my day. And every time I leave again, the same stuff is back down. I had plants hanging in my room. I had a whiteboard in my room. I had my LED light. All of that was down on the ground. This happened every single day and every time I left my room. And I cannot express how crazy I felt in the head that I was given every single sign these few weeks that I let this go on, and I never once thought that it was her. She seemed so quiet. She seemed very mature. She seemed nice. She preached to be a Christian girl. She was in a sorority, and I'm just like, there's no way it's her. Like, this stuff just isn't sticking to my walls. And this is when I tell you guys to always believe your gut. Fast forward to when I started showering after that. I feel like after the first few days, ripping my stuff off the walls wasn't enough for her. She didn't get enough of a humiliation reaction out of me that she started pouring out my shampoo, my conditioner, my body wash, and my shaving cream. Then again, Aaliyah thought that this was just her. I'm thinking this stuff's just falling over in the shower, it might have been an accident. Let me walk my happy butt all the way off of campus to Target to go restock my stuff just to come back, shower again, and then the next day it's gone. So now I'm calling my mom all the time and I'm like, Mom, like this is happening. My mom's like, you need to take pictures of everything. You need to document everything. You need to document when it happens. And she's like, Aaliyah, why aren't you saying something to her? Like at least ask her. And I just was like scared. I was terrified too. I don't like putting people on the spot, and I didn't want her to have a bad first impression of me or for me to seem like I was mean or I was accusing her of something that she wasn't doing. So I continued to let it go on until I was given like an actual reason to be like, oh my gosh, like this is her. And it only got worse. Stay tuned for part 2. Here's part 2 to my college roommate experience. So continuing from the last part, I restocked my items so much, and it was such a waste of money because she continuously kept dumping it out. She was tampering with all of my stuff. So not only was that not enough, but after that, when I started showering again with my new items, it wasn't dumped out anymore, but the consistency was changed. My shampoo was so watery that I just knew something was up, but I was so oblivious to it in the moment that I didn't realize until after, when my scalp started seeping and blistering, that she was putting something in my shampoo and conditioner. Now you're probably wondering, Aaliyah, why haven't you taken initiative and said something to somebody at this point? I did. During all of this, starting I believe the second day of school when her boyfriend never gave me privacy, and it was just awkward and so uncomfortable for me. Especially if I knew I was having somebody come over, I would say something because we're in the same room, and I mean we're literally across the room from each other. Our beds are right there. That I would let her know that, or at least make sure it's okay that I'm having somebody come over. There was none of that. Whether I was sleeping, taking a nap, studying, in the shower, getting ready, she didn't care. So we took initiative and we made a roommates agreement, which everybody in our building had to do, and we had to literally discuss, okay, hey, when's your best time? When do you prefer that your roommate has people over? And I said, I don't want anybody over while I'm taking a nap, while I'm studying, while I'm getting ready or showering, and any time besides that, that's fine. Because I had already been through it. This was after it was already taking place. So I knew I didn't want him over during any of that time. She sat there and she said, oh, it doesn't really matter to me. Well, yeah, because I haven't had anybody over. She doesn't have to go through that, so that's easy for her to say. And she kind of just looked at me like I was crazy, like I was trying to be mean, but she knew what she was doing. So this comes down to, well, you didn't really get your way with your boyfriend. So she started locking me out of my room. At this point, you're probably like, Aaliyah, well, you can have an RA or a campus police officer come unlock your room. No, babe, you can't. When they put a master lock, she put her own master lock in the inside of the bedroom on the door to where nobody could get into the door. She wanted her privacy, and she used that as an excuse to say that she puts a double lock on the door just to be safe. In my head, that didn't make sense to me at all. And it was just a dumb excuse that I let go over my head and I believed. And it came down to the days that she knew I was leaving for class and I had to come back for my online classes, and I'm at the door because I need to get into my room and log on to my online classes, that I was locked out and I was late to class. I would sit there knocking on the door, texting her, and I think she would purposely wait. I'm not blaming her or accusing her of anything, but I believe she let so much time go on that she was literally right there in the room. She wasn't answering her phone, she wasn't answering her text messages, and then maybe 15 minutes later, me just standing there, then she would come unlock the door. After I had already contacted my RA and literally had so many conversations with my RA about this, and I just feel like it was all a conflict of interest that nobody gave a flying F. Not to mention that my RA was a part of a sorority as well. So is this initiation? This is what's going through my head. I'm trying to figure out what's the motive here? Why is nobody doing anything about this? This is literally a safety issue, and that's what your RA is there for. So then she goes, okay, well, maybe we need to have a conversation. Let me know a time that me and the other RAs or the head RAs can come into your room and we can talk. Talking is not going to fix the problem at this point. To me, that was not what I wanted to do, because I felt like I was being punished. I felt like I was going to be put on the spot, and I wasn't causing any of this. This is literally a privacy issue. This is a safety issue. This is somebody who's tampering with my stuff and is literally purposely doing it. Please tell me what having a discussion is going to do. So then I explained everything to my roommate. I went through the whole shampoo and conditioner, and she kind of just looked at me like I was crazy. I was just being over dramatic, I was making this up, there's no way this was happening, the first week of school. And she kind of just kept letting it go on. She was almost doing what I was doing, which was giving it another reason to nudge at it. She just kept letting it go on. The reason why we made a roommates agreement was so that we both signed it and we both knew, hey, I said I don't want anybody over during this time. I don't want this happening. I don't want this happening. I'm not comfortable with this. And if it was broken, then my RA has something to go back at and then have a reason to go to somebody higher up. Right after we signed the roommates agreement and we both agreed to what we feel comfortable with, she broke it the next day. That was when she started locking me out of my room. She still consistently had her boyfriend over all day long, and they both were messing with my stuff. Here's the part 3 of my college roommate experience. So I, at this point, have still not confronted my roommate, nor have I said anything to her. I've only been in contact with my RA, and I've been getting bombarded by my mother to take initiative and to do something and to stick up for myself for once, and I never am able to do that. Which is why I get put in this position, because people take advantage of how nice I am, and I just always get treated so crappy, and I just let people walk over me. And I was so nice to her. When I tell you, like, I'm like, hey, like, I have this food, you can have whatever you want, you can use this, you can use that. Like, I literally, I wanted to be comfortable, and I'm such a friendly person that I was just like, what did I do to deserve this? And why does she hate me so much? So I'm to the point where I'm literally texting my RA every single day. I'm like, hey, update, this happened. We met one time, and we literally, like, verbally talked about everything face to face. And she was very like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Like, we're definitely gonna get this figured out. Like, this is not okay. She shouldn't be using a lock on the door, because that's my room too. And if I don't have access to it, there's a problem. And also mentioned some of the other things, like, hey, like, her messing with your stuff, like, this is definitely something that we need to talk about. We need to take to somebody higher up. Was it done? No. I got to the point where I felt like I was being so vulnerable, because I'm literally crying to my RA at times, and I'm so upset that I was like, I got to the point where I was like, I don't think she deserves to know my business any longer. It's time for me to take initiative and go to somebody else. But then again, I still did not say anything to my roommate, because I knew after whoever I talked to, I had to go back into the room with her, because I didn't know anybody else. Thankfully, I finally did meet my friends on campus, and I was able to go over to their place when I didn't feel comfortable being in my room. And even they told me, Aaliyah, you need to say something. And I still did not. Reason being why this was such a big life lesson for me. It is so sickening to even think about the days that I literally felt so uncomfortable being in my room, whether it be just with her or with her and her boyfriend, that I ate my dinner every single day out on the back balcony in an area on a college campus that is not anywhere near safe, by myself. And I spent every time throughout the day that I didn't want to be in my room with her in the basement of our building. And I literally told my RA this, and there was times where I would pass her on the steps down to the basement while she's taking her laundry up or down, and she just kind of like gave me a grin. At this point, it was awkward. She knew what she was doing, and so did my roommate. This is going on to maybe like the second or third week of school, coming up on my birthday. She's been tampering with all of my items, taking them off the walls, messing with my shampoo and conditioner. And then one morning, I woke up with my sweatshirt covered in bleach. Now, not to mention, throughout this time, I had mentioned to my mom before that I have not been feeling well in school. And she kind of mentioned, like, maybe it's like a virus going around, because it's like everybody's just now starting school. And I kind of just went with it, but it was like a feeling where I felt like I was like hallucinating, and I just felt drowsy all the time and just like lightheaded. And not to over exaggerate, but I am a very light sleeper. I wake up to every noise, every nudge, everything. And I was knocked out those nights. I was knocked out. So I'm like waking up, and I look in my mirror when I walk into the bathroom, and I'm like, what the is this? And it was just like there was just bleach on like my shoulders and around like my neckline. And you know how if you use like different products or something with like benzoyl peroxide that can bleach your stuff? I didn't have anything, and I didn't change any of my items. So I didn't even want that to be a reason that somebody was like, oh, are you using something different? No, I'm not. What the hell is this? So I took that with a grain of salt as well. And at this point, this is when like her like actions started to like change. Like, usually we would tell each other when we're leaving, or like at least I would be like, bye, like I'll be back later. And she kind of just like would walk out now and just like slam the door. And like her and her boyfriend would purposely make it so awkward for me when they were both in the room and I was in there too, that like they wanted me to leave because they wanted their private time. So at this point, I gave them what they wanted, and I was never in my room, and that just gave more time for them to just mess with whatever they wanted. So now I would come back, and all of my lights would be unplugged, my TV would be unplugged, my vanity light would be unplugged, and my refrigerator would be unplugged. And obviously that means all of my food would go bad. When she would know that I'm like going out with my friends for the weekend, or I'm going to be over my friends, she unplugged or turned the temperature, the knob, all the way to 0 on my fridge and my freezer. So this leads into my birthday. So the day of my birthday, she knew that I was probably not going to be in my room much. I was going to be hanging out with my friends. I was going to be out that weekend. And she plotted. Still coming back at this point to all of my stuff off the walls. Like, this was just typical. This was usual. And I think at this time, like, she stopped messing with like my shower stuff. but I kind of just like kept it away in a bin now, so she couldn't really touch it. And I was having to literally like hide all of my electronics and like all of my important stuff because I knew that that stuff was going to get messed with. Stay tuned for the next part of what took initiative on my birthday 1 year ago. Here's to part 4 of my college roommate experience. And the reason why I am making this story time today is because 3 a.m. tomorrow on August 28th is when I made my first police report ever being an adult against my college roommate on my birthday, and it was absolutely ruined and traumatizing and horrific. So here I am. Cheers to having a good birthday tomorrow. I'm finally sharing my story today. So my mom on my birthday last year, this was my first birthday I had ever spent away from my family in a space that was supposed to feel like home to me. So my mom sent me some flowers and she sent me a bundt cake. I had plans later on to go out with my friends, and I got an Airbnb in the city that my university was in. And we all just kind of like looked forward to getting away for the night and just like having fun together. So I put my flowers and my bundt cake in my refrigerator in my room so that it didn't go bad, and nor did my flowers. I packed up my stuff for the night, and my roommate was watching me pack my bag, so she knew I was leaving. And she also sent me a text message while I was in the bathroom and asked if I was leaving for the weekend or for the night, and I never responded. At this point, I kind of knew something was going on. At this point, I was aware something was going on, and that was the reason why I was packing my stuff up and I was getting the F out of there. Did not even want to come back there for the night of my birthday, and I just wanted to have a good day. But when she sent me that text message and asked, I just thought it was kind of odd because she never asks what I'm doing. So I just had a gut feeling that she was going to mess with something that night, or she had a plan. She texted me and she said, I'm just asking because my boyfriend's coming over. I got out the shower and I packed my bags. I packed everything I could and I left. But the most important part is that before I left, I made the decision to set up my iPad under my covers, and I turned on my voice memos while her boyfriend was there with her to see what was discussed while I was gone. I have now gotten to the point where I felt like I was so crazy and that I was making all of this up and that this was just all just like happening to me, that I needed some type of clarification, some type of validation that it was her and this was purposeful and it's not me. I'm not the problem. I then went over to my friends for about 2 hours and I planned on coming back with them to grab my iPad out of my room. At this point, I needed this for my own well-being. And I don't know how to explain the feeling that I was getting, but it's almost like when you're in a toxic relationship and things are bad and you want out of it, but then when things are good, like you forget about all of the bad and you're just like blinded. Because she would find reasons to like kind of like nudge and just like check in on me. Hey, how are you doing? I've been so worried about you. You weren't in the room last night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe she does care. Maybe this isn't her. So I asked my friends to come back with me to grab my iPad, and when I walked in the room, I was kind of given this look that like was very envious from her, and I just straight up asked her. I was like, hey, are you touching my stuff? She right away was just like, no. Her reaction was very nonchalant. It was very like, it wasn't even concerning because the way that I was thinking, I'm like, wow, if my roommate asked me if I was messing with her stuff and it was being tampered with, and I'm like, I directly told her, I'm like, well, my stuff is being dumped out and it's ripped off the walls, it's being moved around. If I actually didn't do anything and I was hurt, I would be worried because that would mean that somebody else has been in our room, in which my stuff is in too. But her reaction was not giving that. It was giving very like, no, it wasn't me. And at that very moment, her boyfriend laughed in front of my face. Mind you, my iPad is still recording at this point, and I decided that after I leave that room, after asking her, I'm going to leave it in there because I'm going to hear what they talk about after I leave too. So I continuously asked her, I'm like, who's touching my stuff then? Because the only 2 people who have ever been in this room since the first day of school are you and you. So who is touching my stuff? Then again, I got the same reaction, which is, well, I don't know, but it wasn't me. That is when I made the conscious decision to leave my iPad in there and continue recording. Because at this point, I knew it was her. Especially with the laughing, I was so offended and I was so angry, but I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, you know what? This recording is literally going to give me everything that I need. I went outside and I called my mom and I was telling her everything that was going on and like what I did. And I gave her about 5 minutes in the room. And so I went back in and I grabbed my iPad, and literally 2 minutes later, her boyfriend is like walking as fast as he can out of the building. To me, that was I just got caught, I gotta get out of here, because the last thing I said before I left the room, when I asked her if she was touching my stuff, I said, all right, I'm not stupid, and I said, I'll be back. And I think me saying I'll be back scared her, or at least gave them a feeling of, oh, I don't know who Aaliyah's gonna come back with, I don't know if she's gonna go tell somebody, but we're caught. That's exactly what it was giving, and at that point, I kind of knew. Here's to part 5 of my college roommate experience. At this point, I had finally went back in and I grabbed my iPad from my bed. She is dramatically crying and she's on the phone when I walk in there, and all I said was, don't touch my stuff again, and I walked out. I made my way back over to my friend's place, my friend's dorm, and at this point, I literally felt so sick to my stomach. I hadn't even had the chance to listen to anything yet, but I just had the same feeling that I had been feeling when I felt sick, and I'm like, this is not just a sickness, okay? I know, one, I probably just feel sick to my stomach from what happened, but I felt so, like, drained and just drowsy and weird. So give or take a few hours, like, I get ready or whatever, and we're just chilling, and I could not hold myself back any longer from listening to the audio recording. Midnight finally hits. I kind of like, cheers, like, whatever, happy birthday, Aaliyah. We have our little moments. And then I'm like, okay, like, I cannot, like, go any longer without having some type of clarification. I need to listen to this. So I put my Beats on, and for hours, I sat there straightening my hair and listening to this audio recording. And within the first 30 minutes, she openly acknowledged to her boyfriend that she had been messing with my stuff and ripping it off my walls. I was honestly so surprised that it even got brought up, but I feel like this was literally just God, and this was like, here you go, Aaliyah. You're not crazy, it's not you, and you're not the problem. And I instantly called my mom, and I was telling her how I didn't feel well. I showed her my scalp. I took pictures of it. It's literally blistered, and it hurts, and it's seeping while I'm straightening my hair. That's when I noticed it, and I felt weird. And she's like, Aaliyah, have you ever thought that she's putting stuff in your shampoo and conditioner, but she's also putting stuff in your beverages in your fridge? And that's when I finally just got like this weird, sickening gut feeling, and she's like, you need to call the police. So I listened to the audio a little bit more, and the only things that I was hearing was literally her saying, yeah, I ripped this off her walls. She was talking about the days that I do my laundry. She was clearly messing with my stuff. She was talking about my reaction when I walked out of the shower. Her boyfriend was asking, like, did you see her face when she walked out the bathroom? Like, they had been plotting and like literally messing with my stuff just to see my reaction. And when I noticed that she was messing with my fridge, and I would literally open it in front of her face and turn it back on and turn the knob back up, he literally asked her in the audio recording, did you see her face? And he was like, she said no, she was facing the other way. Then they literally would sit there and they were like, what do you think she's doing that right now? Where do you think she goes out? Then he was asking if I was leaving for the night, and she goes, yeah, she was packing her bags. Like, the entire 2 hours, they were literally plotting and just talking about me. At that, she was mocking me too. She goes, okay, let me make some content. And they were like, I knew my LED light was bothering her, even though it was never on, because I had the common courtesy, because that light is so freaking bright, not to turn it on, but I still had it up on my wall on my side of the bedroom. And she literally was like, it's just so big and it's just bright. And he was like, why don't you make your own? And she was like, no, I just ripped it off the walls. Like, everything was literally giving jealousy and envy. And now I'm just like, I don't even want to know how far this would have been taken if I wouldn't have done this tonight. And I had had enough at this point that I finally called the police. I hadn't even fully listened to the audio recording, but I was so sick and I was mind blown and I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to have a good day without taking initiative and finally doing something about it and putting my foot down. So I called the police, and they were just asking if I needed an ambulance, because I was explaining how I felt and I was explaining the situation, told them where I was at, and they finally came to me, and I sat there in the lobby on the floor of my friends in the hallway, and I literally told them what happened to me. They were taking notes. They were asking how old I was, and I was like, well, it's actually my birthday today. And it was my first year being an adult, being away from home, not having a support system, not having my mom there to help me. I didn't know my rights as a victim. I didn't know if this was severe enough to even be calling the police. I felt like in every aspect of this that I was being so over dramatic, and I just felt like I was just dumbfounded. I just felt so stupid, and like, you know, like when you just start to blame yourself for things. And I was just kind of sitting there like, why would you let this go on for so long? And then just to have them sit there and they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to assign you a victim rights advocate. And we're paging other officers, handing me paperwork about my victim rights and that this is harassment and this is assault, especially if she's putting something in my stuff and tampering with my items. I was sitting there, I'm shaking. I had all of my new friends, which God forbid, I'm so glad that I met them. They were there with me every moment of it. I had my mom on the phone too because I was having to sign papers. I didn't know what I was signing. I'm like, hey, can I send a picture of this to my mom? Like, am I allowed to do that? I don't know what I'm signing. Basically signing to say that I can have somebody to be an advocate for me in court. And I think that's when it finally hit me. I'm like, wow, like, this is real life right now. Like, this is actually happening to me. And this was so true. And this was actually taking place this whole time, Aaliyah. It wasn't you. And just the having the feeling of just like being able to finally breathe and know that I wasn't the problem and I wasn't going crazy was relieving at the same time, but it was also so scary. Stay tuned for part 6. Here's to part 6, I believe, of my college roommate experience. So at this point, I had literally told the police everything that happened, and I also told them that I had this audio recording. And they kind of mentioned to me, you know, you're not going to be able to use this in court because you did record without our consent, but you can send it to us and we can look through it. Now, in my head, I knew nobody was going to take me serious if I just sent over this 2-hour recording and let it be up to them to listen to it and figure out what was said the whole time. It was already hard enough to try to hear because my iPad was like under the cover, and when the AC would kick on in the room, like you could barely hear what was being said. So I tried my very best for hours and hours and hours all night long to listen in my beats and go back and go forward and go back and go forward and try to figure out everything that was said and to mark the timing, the timestamps, so that the police could do nothing but literally just look at them and go find it for themselves. At this point, I was begging for somebody to finally take initiative and do something about it. And I had told my RA that I was making a police report, and she asked to be present with all of the other RAs to make me comfortable. Why are you trying to make me comfortable now? This is all, to me, people trying to try to cover it up. I don't need anybody to make me comfortable. You should have done that, and you should have done something about it before. But now that I'm going to somebody else higher up, you want to be present. So after the police took everything that I had, took my statement, he kind of let me go for the night and told me, you know, tomorrow we're going to do what we can to get you out of that room, and we're going to have the police move you out of your room tomorrow. Because I had already expressed so many times to my RA and the higher ups of, you know, the RAs or whatever, that I wanted out of my room. And if not even that I wanted out of my room, but I wanted her out of the room, because me having to move all of my stuff out of my room feels like I'm the one who's being punished. They were just expressing to me how hard it is to do room changes, blah, blah, blah. But I had heard about so many people changing their rooms. I'm like, are you serious right now? And how it's such a long process, but it clearly wasn't serious enough for them. So the next day, after getting a few hours of sleep, I woke up, and at 9 o'clock in the morning, I was at the police station. I was literally sitting on my birthday in a 2x2 cubicle room with a camera on me and an officer, a detective, and a victim rights advocate, and me at a circle table and a recording device in the middle of the table. Never experienced anything like that in my life. I was scared. And you know, when you get scared, you want to give up and just walk away from the situation, and you don't want to have to deal with it. I have such bad anxiety. I literally sat there and I was like, I feel like I am in trouble. So I had to sit there on a recording device and explain my whole story over again. I was asked questions. I was basically interviewed, and it was scary. It was intimidating. And then I had to wait some time, and then another officer came in, or a detective, and then I had to wait again. I was there for hours, and I had my friends, who I cannot thank God enough for them, in the room next to me, just waiting on me the entire time. I will say that the officers made me very comfortable during that time, but it was taken advantage of very quickly. I obviously told them how, you know, I was kind of big on social media, had a name to myself, that they knew who I was. And I think once you hear that, then it's like, whoa. We either, one, have to do something about this and risk it getting out, or two, we don't do anything about it and we cover it up. And that's exactly what they did. I didn't go to the Cincinnati police. I went to the campus police, which they claim is the same as Cincinnati police. But I think I made a mistake going to campus police because it's a big circle. We're all a part of the University of Cincinnati. Then I was taken to my room after all of that in the detective's car, and I was told that I had like 2 hours before my roommate got back to her room from class, because they looked up her class schedule, to get all of my crap out of the room. I lived on the first floor of my building, and I was being moved across the street to the 4th floor where there's no elevators, just stairs, in the end of August in 90-degree weather on my birthday. These officers were not getting paid to help me, so I literally once again want to thank God for and bless their hearts, because they did help me even though they did not have to. But they helped me carry, all of my big items that I had my stepdad move into my room for me that I then had to move out of my room myself. They helped me take care of those ones and carry them up 4 flights of stairs to my new room. Such as my fridge, my nightstand, my vanity, my microwave, all of the heavy things that there was no way I was going to be able to do that myself. I cannot tell you, these guys were drenched in sweat and were red-faced. But then we got all of my stuff in the buckets, moved them across the street, carried every single thing up, every single flight of stairs, went down, went up, went down, went down. It took a long time. But I finally got all of my stuff into my new bedroom with 3 different roommates, but I did have my own private room this time. And then again, I was stuck on my birthday with a disastrous room, and I had to figure out how I'm going to decorate it, what I'm going to do, and this was going to be so time consuming, so I did not get to enjoy my birthday. So after this, they were kind of like, okay, yay, like we got you out of your room, yay, that's it. And they also collected out of my old room my shampoo, my conditioner, my iced coffees, my apple juice, my Brita water filter, almost everything that they could that could have been tampered with or she could have put something in. They said they were going to take it to the evidence lab, the evidence crime lab, and they were going to test it in an evidence freezer. Now, if you're not aware, beverages, they will put in an evidence freezer, and if it doesn't freeze, that means that there's something in it, such as alcohol or THC oil. Correct me if I'm wrong on the THC oil. I felt so relieved being in a new room, and I had hope at this point, but that wasn't it. Here is part 7 of my college roommate experience. So I was finally moved out of my room. I was in a new area. I spent the rest of the weekend for my birthday just hanging with friends, and then I came back a few days later to finally put my room in place. I finally felt like I had a new environment, I had a refresh, and this was such a blessing to be able to have my own space and to kind of restart my college experience and be able to live out the experience like everybody else, because that was stripped from me. I was continuously going back and forth with the detective, and he kind of mentioned to me, hey, like, can you share all of your pictures and all of your evidence with me in this folder? So I did. I gave him everything I had. We kept in close contact, and he updated me continuously. I got a call from him one day, and I know this is kind of going to be all over the place because it's kind of hard to remember the timeline of events that happened. But I got a call from him, and he was like, hey, Aaliyah, I just want to ask you, did you ever happen to put any beer or any alcohol in like your iced coffee or your apple juices or THC oil? He was like, I'm not accusing you of anything. I just have to ask you this in case our labs come back, which are going to take a while, and we do find something in it. I just want to make clarification first that, this wasn't you. I was like, of course not. No. He kind of, let me know that it was going to take a while for this stuff to get tested, and he has other stuff to be working on now, so I just had to be patient. I shared everything I had with him, and it was just a waiting game now. It wasn't long before I started getting packages to my new room. I was getting notifications from our package center that I had packages waiting for me, and I wasn't expecting any because I hadn't updated my new room address on anything, so I was confused on where they were coming from. Nobody but my mother knew my new address. But it's not a coincidence that, it was from her because she was right across the street from me. So they came to the same buildings and she knew I was there. All you had to do was put a name on it. I went and picked up my package, and it was a package from Amazon with my first name and the first 3 letters of my last name, my building number, but not the correct room, and that was it. So I obviously took it upon myself to call Amazon and ask where this package was coming from, and obviously they were like, it's you. All of my information was made on a new account. My first and last name, my phone number but not my email, and my new address, obviously. So they were just like, girl, it's you. And I was like, no, it's not. So can you tell me who this is from? And for privacy reasons, they couldn't tell me any more information. I gave them my actual Amazon account. I confirmed the account. And so they just really couldn't tell me anything else. Now, when I opened the package, I got a Bible. This Bible. The Bible that I use to this day. This is what I got in the mail from Amazon. From you know who. was pretty obvious to me. I use this Bible because a lot of people told me not to. They're like, Leah, I wouldn't use that. I believe that God is protecting me at all times, and I honestly believe that it was such a blessing that I went through that situation, because I would not be how strong I am today. She may have sent this to me as a form of sarcasm, but she guided me right down the correct path to find Jesus. So there is a story behind my Bible, and I firmly believe that God will find his ways. God will find his ways to you, and he did, and that's why I didn't choose to go get my own Bible or use another one. I used this one. So I obviously called the detective back, and I was like, hey, I'm getting packages in the mail now. Like, what can we do about this? And he mentioned tracking the IP address and the card number used. Amazon also let me know that my card number that's connected to my Amazon account is not the same card that was used, which let me know that, it wasn't me. They said that they took note of it and that they were going to check in on that package. Now, the police asked me at this point to not have any contact with her. Also, an important point that I forgot was the night of my birthday, after she knew I was leaving, after I even came in and confronted her, when my birthday finally hit at midnight, after I confronted her, she sent me a happy birthday message. She sent me a happy birthday message with a heart. That's why I'm like, am I being manipulated? Like, what's going on? Another important detail I forgot to mention was when I went into the room to grab my iPad and to leave, when I said that she was crying, she had called somebody and she said, my roommate just came in here. I'm scared. She's bawling her eyes out. She's like, I'm very uncomfortable. I don't know what she's going to do. She said she'll be back. She's not in here right now. And that's when I walked back in and grabbed my iPad while she was still on the phone. Anywho, everything with the police investigation was a waiting game at this point. I was trying to figure out who else can I go to take initiative and do something within the university and not just the police, because they're not really connected. They handle their crime investigation separately. I decided to go to Student Code because that's who you go to if something happened and, somebody gets removed from the university or gets put on like academic leave or probation or whatever they call it. You go to Student Code about it. I went through the entire university's student code, which is pages and pages long, of everything that you're not supposed to do, such as, like Title IX, harassment, bullying, cheating. I went through all of their stuff. I went through everything and I wrote down everything that she disobeyed, everything that she did, and what part of the student code book she violated. I sent an email about my experience, what happened, what was going on with the police, and I sent that email over to the student code. I finally got a response that was, hey, we're glad that you're in a new space now. We hope that works out for you, but our student code team is down right now. Because I overheard that they were changing locations or something, but that is not an excuse. Because what do you do if something happens on campus? Who do you go to? I still, at this point, felt like everything was just being covered up. They were kind of like, whoa, and made a dumb excuse for it, and I never heard back from them. UC, get it together. During the meantime, I was told from the police, don't contact her, don't talk to her, don't do any of this, but I still felt the urge to. I texted her and I told her, I hope you got what you wanted. Her reply was, what are you talking about? I really don't know what you're talking about. You left this in the room. Do you still want it? And I was like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I hope you got what you finally wanted. Told her that it's all on video, and I never really gave her much more of an explanation. And the first thing that she said was, were you recording me without my consent? Yeah, babe, I was. She was trying to instigate a reason to make me feel like I did something I wasn't supposed to do and try to flip the script on me, and I wasn't letting it happen. And she just continued to play dumb, and then that was it. Fast forward to months later, come October time, I believe, end of September, October, I finally heard back from the police, and they told me that they finally got back the lab results. And he told me, he was like, hey, Leah, your stuff never froze. Told me that my iced coffee and my apple juice or whatever else they took never froze, which does prove that there was something put in my beverages, that she was intoxicating me. Then he also said, as far as the shampoo and conditioner, that stuff is made with chemicals, so it's very hard to tell what was put in it. I was like, hey, that's okay. At least I have this audio recording and I have the lab results. Then he goes, well, Aaliyah, I can only use that recording to sit her down and talk to her, but we don't have any direct evidence that it was her. The way that the system is built is basically if you don't have something on camera, if you don't have something visually recording somebody committing a crime, it's impossible to do something about it. You're never going to get justice for what happened. I have her openly acknowledging everything. They have the knickknacks, they have the evidence, but I just finally felt left down. This comes October, when I got off of that phone and I went through one of the hardest times of my life. I held on to hope for so long, and I was just so angry and I was so let down because I have been put in this position so many times in my life where I don't speak up and I don't speak up for myself. And I felt like, Aaliyah, like, you finally did it. You finally did it. And you waited and you waited and you waited, and I had hope and I had faith that something was going to happen, and it didn't. And everybody else got to walk away from that situation, and I was left to live with that. I was let down in every single way possible. I was sick, I was intoxicated, I was technically assaulted, I was harassed, I was humiliated, my privacy was violated, my safety was violated, and I was basically just bullcrap out of luck. At this point, I spent maybe my last 2 weeks at the university. I was going through a lot of family things at the time, and I was coming close to losing a grandparent of mine. I went through an era where I kind of lost myself for like those last few weeks that I was there, and I was, not that that's an excuse for anything, but I was so traumatized and I just wanted to get away from the situation. Fast forward, I finally moved back home and I gave up. Here's the part 8 and the last final part of my college roommate experience. I moved back home to Columbus, and I finally made the decision that I no longer want to be there. I don't want to be at Cincinnati, and I felt so unsafe there, and it didn't feel like home to me, and I never was given the chance to actually fulfill my college experience. And I just had a gut feeling that if nothing was done about this, if people were covering it up, God only knows what else could happen. I just felt more secure being back at home with my family. Yes, I had severe FOMO. I felt like I was missing out on so much, and so much was stripped from me that I did not deserve from literally the second day that I moved in. And, you know, I came home and everybody's like, oh, like, Aaliyah, how's college? Like, how's this? Why are you home? I got so many questions from everybody, and it was so hard for me to tell them what happened. It just didn't even feel real. And my grandpa, who passed away in November, which was the next month after I moved back home, he would always tell me, you know, like, things happen for a reason. Like, whatever is meant to happen to her will happen to her. Leah, it's out of your hands. Like, basically just reminding me that, you know, God has my back and that my family is there to support me. And he would, you know, go to work and like tell people what was going on, and then I lost him. I was very faith-driven, and this is part of my testimony, my reason why I started building a closer relationship. Anyways, I did give up. I got to the point where I was like, I don't want anything to do with this, because I was let down in so many ways that I just want to have peace of mind and I want to move on with my life and not still live in that moment. So I transferred schools and I took all of my classes through that school online because I just wanted to be home. I felt like a loser, and it was honestly like such a hard thing to go through because I felt like I was missing out on everything. But then again, I had to always remind myself that everything happens for a reason. She has removed herself from every social media platform, and still to this day, since last year, she's not anywhere. That only proves to you something. She still attends there, I believe. I believe that she's still in, you know, the same sorority. Nothing has been done. I don't even believe the police didn't even take the time to interview her or to talk to her or to say anything to her, which speaks such high volume. Fast forward to where we are now. I have grown such a loving passion for helping people and for giving people advice and for sharing my stories for the benefit of others, for sharing my voice for those who have not found theirs yet, and to learn to stick up for yourself. So within the past few months of getting prepared for school starting again, knowing that I am no longer there, I have prepared myself to finally share my story, because in order to heal, I feel like I finally need to put my foot down and I need to come forward about what happened to me and to finally live through the experience and not in the experience. Absolutely nobody deserves to go through this. And from what I was told, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but the state that I live in, Ohio, is a one-party state, meaning that you don't actually need both parties to know that, you know, she was being recorded for it to be a piece of evidence. So I'm not sure if they were wrong on that, but that's what I was told. So in that case, it could have been used. Second off, since then, I have requested my police investigation and my police report from the night that I made it from the campus police and the Cincinnati police, and I have gotten nothing back but a response that says that they cannot give me my police report that I made, my statement, because the suspect wasn't charged. I understand this is a public records request, but this isn't just anybody asking for it. This is the victim, the person who made the report, asking for the report. I'm already aware of everything. You're not releasing anybody's name that I don't already know about or releasing information to me that I don't already know about because I made the report. So why is it not being released to me? Next, I then went to my files to find all of my evidence that I sent over to the detective, and it's deleted. It says it was either deleted or my viewing of it is no longer being shared. So I have no longer access to my stuff. What a coincidence. I kept my story hidden for so long because I knew that it was going to mess with my case. And even when time went on and I kind of gave up and was told that there was nothing to be done about it, I was scared of judgment and I didn't really know what would take place after that. But I'm here to tell everybody to use your voice because you are so strong. If you are a victim of anything, do not let anybody tell you that you cannot come forward about it or make you feel like it is not your place to speak on your behalf. I feel like in the society that we have grown up in, it is so normalized for us to feel guilty for something that we didn't do. For people to try to flip the script on you and make you feel like you are at blame. And it's not fair. I was given a platform for a reason, which I am truly so grateful and blessed to have people who are here to support me. But I am also aware that I have people that probably don't agree with what I do or don't support me. But all of that doesn't matter because I have people who are here to listen. And if you're still listening, always be cautious of your surroundings. Always trust your gut. And never push yourself back from putting your foot down. Because you are the most important person in your story. And if you can show up for anybody, show up for yourself. It took me a year to finally explain what I went through. But tomorrow is my birthday. Tomorrow marks the day that I made the police report. Tomorrow marks the day that I finally put my foot down, and I don't want to live through my birthday feeling like I failed myself. Or even at that, having flashbacks about what happened and regretting not sticking up for myself and saying something. So here I am sharing my story on my crazy college roommate experience. To the University of Cincinnati, do better. It's honestly so disgusting what you guys have allowed. To the detectives and the police officers that I was assigned during this time, thank you for your help, but you have let down a young victim of a crime. To everybody watching, thank you so much for listening to my story. I can't express how hard it was for me to finally do this. And to my college roommate, God bless your heart, girl.